Jealousy is a door. Y'all help me here. That invites the enemy into our lives. Again, my subject, kingdom and chaos. My subject here, kingdom and chaos. Well, prophet, why does this have to do with what we talked about on Saturday? Ready? This has so much to do with what we talked about on Saturday. Ready? And there's a reason I went to 1 Samuel 18. Now let's go back to 1 Samuel 18 for just a second here. So we get context. Whatever Saul sent him to do, David did it. Let's stop there for just a second. Whatever Saul sent David to do, he did it. Which means David didn't really question a task that Saul gave him. Did it successfully that Saul gave him a high ranking in the army. This pleased everybody and Saul's officers as well. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out from all of the towns of Israel to meet King Saul, with singing and dancing, with joyful songs, with tambourines, with lutes. As they danced, they sang, and Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Now, here is the part that is the problem. Let's look at verse 8. Let's keep reading a little bit. Saul was very angry. This refrain galed him. They have now let's think about what they just said. They said Saul has slayed his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. They have credited David with tens of thousands, and he thought, but me with only thousands? What more can he get but the kingdom? Saul is now in a place of worrying that they will make David king. Verse 9, and from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. Saul keeps a jealous eye on David. Y'all flow with this here. The next day, an evil spirit from God came forcibly upon Saul. He was prophesying in his house while David was playing the harp, and as he usually did, Saul had a spear in his hand, and he hurled it, saying to himself, I'll pin David to the wall. But David eludes him. The spear misses twice. Does this twice, misses. Ready? Let's first evaluate a few things here before we go to James. In verse 7, the first thing that is mentioned is that Saul hears something. As they danced, they sang, and they sang that Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000s. A jealous mind, let me help y'all with something for a minute. A person who is jealous will always hear the negative side versus the positive side. Kingdom Center, I need you to help me here. Now, let's think about something. Both of these brothers are striving for one thing. Let's be clear, David is a servant in the text. They're both in the army, and Saul has pretty much an overrule of what goes on. I'm gonna put it like this: Saul has a pretty good ruling on what goes on. Why are you talking about this, prophet? Because it's dangerous when the only thing you're seeing when we read a text like this is the fact that someone has to be better off than the other. That's all. I'm not looking at these texts correctly. I'm not reading this correctly. If the one thing I get out of the text is David could have lowered himself a little more. David does not have this jealous spirit. Ready? Here's the problem. Saul is prophesying. This is what twists me. Oh my sweet Jesus. Saul is prophesying. But has the one thing that really does not make a prophet. Why won't y'all talk to me? Saul has the very one thing that truly should not be the definition of a prophet or a Christian in itself. Saul is prophesying in his own house, and while David was playing the harp as he usually did. Ready? This was a usual routine for David. This was not something David just started doing out of the blue. David did this daily. And one thing Saul thinks, I must pin David to the wall, but misses twice. Verse 8 tells us he becomes angry. Verse 11, he throws the spear to kill him. Watch this. He throws a spear to kill him. What we see or hear, what we feel, and what we do is dangerous. What we see, what we hear, what we do, and what we feel can be dangerous in the kingdom. Ready? And this is why they've always said that a prophet is not favored among those, even in his home. We talked about this last week.
A prophet is not favored among those that are even in his home. Because, can I be honest? As a prophet, I've heard some things from the Lord that are going to go on in the homes of God's people. I just don't know. Ready? He hears something. He becomes angry. What he sees or hears. What we feel. This is why when we are prophesying, when we are doing things for God, we cannot go off of what we feel. When we're ministering, we cannot go off of what we feel. What we do. Go to James 3. I'm going to tell you why this can't work. Watch this. Ready? James 3. And I'm going to start at the 13th verse instead of the 14th. But if you harbor, ready? Do you want to be counted wise? To build a reputation for wisdom? Here's what you do: live well, live wisely, live humbly. It's the way you live, not the way you talk, that counts. Let me give it to y'all this way. Let me give it to y'all like this. Y'all give me some time tonight. Y'all give me just a little bit of time here. James 3. And who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show out of his fine conduct mildness that belongs to wisdom. Which means if I have wisdom and I receive it, I'm going to show that I get it. I'm going to show that I have it. But verse 14 to 16 is the most important in this text, because again, this goes along back with 1 Samuel. Going back with 1 Samuel 18. Ready? Watch this. He puts it like this. He says, listen to what it says. But if you have bitter jealousy and continuous contentiousness in your heart, do not be bragging and lying against the truth. No. Don't be bragging and then lying against the truth if you haven't really gotten wisdom. If you haven't really gotten it,